Check 1 2, check 1 2. Hey everyone, this is Derrick Broze of the Conscious Resistance Network. If this is working all right, we are live on Facebook. We are live on Facebook at the Conscious Resistance at Derrick Broze, and we are live on YouTube at the Conscious Resistance. If you can hear me good, which I think you guys can, please go ahead and give me some thumbs up. Let's get some subscriptions. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, let's get some follows. And let's take a minute to share this out if you guys don't mind while you're on Facebook, while you're on YouTube, wherever you are watching, listening from this evening. I'm going to try to keep this to be a fairly short broadcast, 15 to 20 minutes. I figured I'd do it live rather than recording a video because sometimes it's good to do these things live and talk with you guys a little bit more. So as you can see from the title of this video, I'm assuming you've seen the title. It's called Flaming 5G Towers, Lockdown Protests, and Strategy. So we're going to get into all of that, and I've had some people ask me what I think about people burning 5G towers, and what I think about the lockdown protests that are starting to pop up. We're going to get into all that in just a moment. But first, if you guys don't mind, I want to remind you guys to bookmark theconsciousresistance.com, which is the home for all of my work, which you can find right here, theconsciousresistance.com. Go ahead and bookmark this. Just hit Control-D and it'll pop up here on your toolbar and you can save it. Come visit us once a week if you don't mind. Also, we have added a button here to subscribe to our email newsletter. Please click that. You can follow us on all of the alternative social media channels. You notice there's no Facebook or Twitter on here. Yeah, we got YouTube, but that's the last one. And come check out our new reports, including recent reports about Bill Gates, recent articles that I've written, which for some reason aren't showing up here, and other information. So let's go ahead and dive right in, guys. Let's get into some of these stories. Let's start with the ask people to stop burning 5G towers. 5G towers have been attacked because of coronavirus conspiracy theories. The top 4 mobile UK mobile operators have issued a joint statement asking for help to stop people burning 5G towers. Multiple cell towers were targeted in the UK last week in apparent arson attacks after online conspiracy theories have been falsely linking the spread of coronavirus pandemic to the rollout of 5G. So that's kind of the basics. I don't even want to waste too much time reading these people's words. You guys get it. The telecoms, the government coming together saying, please stop doing this. Even the World Health Organization had to put out a meme recently saying that we've got this coronavirus, nut jobs burn cell towers. Don't you love their very compassionate language here? But you get the gist of this whole thing. So I want to talk to you then about my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, which you can download for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. And you can, of course, purchase that right here at this link. And if you really have to, then I guess you could buy it from Amazon, but that is the last thing I suggest you try to do. So let's go into my book. For those of you who purchased it, thank you. For those of you who downloaded it and read it, I appreciate that. I'm not really good at reading books digitally, so I like to own them in a physical copy. But if you have read it online, again, you can download it for free. We're going to go ahead and look at one of my chapters here, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, which is coincidentally talking about all the stuff we're dealing with, 5G, the smart grid, everything that is happening right now, facial recognition technology, et cetera, et cetera. So in here, I think it's under Counter Economics for the Digital Age, Chapter 5. We're going to go ahead and just Control F, Seek and Destroy. Now, some of you might have seen this in a previous video I did about, about freedom cells and how freedom cells could be the answer for us to organize and come together and really create something better. And I talked about the strategy of exit and build, which is what I'm doing here in Mexico. Came to Mexico to exit the tyrannical United States and build something better elsewhere, but then at the same time to come help others in the underground. So you have exit and build. Some of you have chosen to stay home and you are holding down the fort, which is admirable in its own right. And so you can either exit and build, or what some people call bug out, or you can stay home and you can hold down the fort and build community there and really try to plug in and wake people up where you're at, which is really important right now. And the other third option is called apathy is death, because that basically means you do nothing and you're going to die, because that's just unfortunately the reality we're in. So exit and build, and hold down the fort. And then within that, you have two different strategies that I outlined. Let me just go ahead back to the book right here. All right, I'm going to read you guys a little bit of this if y'all don't mind me reading a little bit. I promise we're getting to the point of how this relates to 5G. So right here I wrote, again, if you live in a major city or even a small city and choose, there are challenges you will have to face. In the US, China, UK, France, Australia, India, etc., closed-circuit TV cameras connected to 24-hour real-time crime centers and fusion centers keep civilians in most major cities under heavy surveillance. Increasingly, these cameras are being outfitted with facial recognition software. To combat this threat, there are two main strategies that I call be invisible and seek and destroy. So we're talking specifically about the destruction of 5G towers, but this relates to all the infrastructure, facial recognition cameras, things like that that we're going to see become normal. So be invisible is basically remain low profile and stop carrying cell phones everywhere you go. Stop using GPS, delete all your social media accounts and apps that track you, stop using credit and debit cards, cancel your bank account, use a credit union if you need to store your money, stop working jobs in the mainstream economy, and stop paying taxes. Now, obviously, some of these options are going to be extreme for some people. It's all about the level of information flow you are willing to accept. Some people can't quit their day jobs or cancel their bank accounts or delete their social media accounts. I get it. This means there will be some level of information about you available to those with the money and the desire to buy it. There's nothing inherently wrong with this. Now we're going to move forward. So that's basically, I talk about encryption right there and, trying to remain invisible. And then I write right here. There are also, well, we'll skip that. We talk about facial recognition. I talk about how activists in Chile and in Hong Kong used lasers to bring down drones and things of that sort. They used face masks. And again, a lot of this is going to become relevant because of facial recognition. There's even people talking about using hairstyles and makeup and clothing to try to deceive facial recognition. Now let's move on to seek and destroy, which is essentially what we see here with these 5G towers. Seek and destroy. Before we go any further, please note this, and this is to everybody in the audience. This information is for educational and research purposes only. You are fully responsible for your actions. Now, for those who are dissatisfied with simply avoiding the invasive technology and playing a digital game of cat and mouse, the seek and destroy option might better suit your needs. We can look to Hong Kong again for another example. In August 2019, activists targeted smart lamps that the local government says are used to collect data on traffic, weather, and air quality. Activists fear the smart streetlights had been equipped with facial recognition software, so they tied ropes around the poles and pulled them down to the ground. There are about 50 smart lampposts installed around Hong Kong, all of which have cameras and sensors. These are the same kind of smart lamps which are being installed in smart cities around the world. Again, I recognize this might sound extreme to some, but I have met a diverse crowd of people who've expressed that if the technology comes to their neighborhoods, they will tear it down. And let me just say on that point, some of you guys have told me, Derrick, if they build 5G in my neighborhood, I'm going to tear it down. If they build, facial recognition, whatever, I'm going to tear it down. Maybe you're just talking big, but for those of you who might feel that strongly about it, let's consider what your options are available to you. All right, let's get back into the book. Okay. This brings us to the topic of monkey wrenching, a form of direct action originally popularized by elements of the radical environmental movement, specifically Earth First and the Earth Liberation Front. Dave Foreman, co-founder of Earth First, outlined the tactics of monkey wrenching in his book, Eco Defense, A Field Guide to Monkey Wrenching. His book itself was inspired by Edward Abbey's book, The Monkey Wrench Gang, which tells the story of 4 individuals who used sabotage to protest environmental damage in the southwestern United States. Between 1992 and 2007, the Earth Liberation Front began sabotaging construction projects that threatened wild lands and forests. Their tactics include tree sitting, nonviolent blockades, civil disobedience, and disrupting machinery. Now, you don't need to agree with their philosophy or even their cause to recognize that monkey wrenching can be applied to a number of different causes. In fact, I would say that the Hong Kong protesters, what they did to the smart lamps was monkey wrenching in defense of privacy and liberty. As always, you decide the risks versus the potential benefits. To those who are uncomfortable with the idea of destruction, remember that every ending breathes a new beginning. We can build a world that respects privacy and individual liberty on top of the ashes of the technocratic state's facial recognition cameras and 5G towers. So what do you think my thoughts are on this? Does it sound like I'm advocating for you to burn 5G towers? Because I'm not, but I have taken it into heavy consideration, and I do think that people are going to have to really understand that, that basically there's going to come a time where we have to push back. And if you feel that strongly that 5G towers are going to be near you, or you don't want a cell tower, you don't want facial recognition cameras or smart lamps or thermal imaging cameras that are now starting to roll out because of COVID-19, then I guess you have some decisions to make. You can either quietly accept it, or you can stop participating in those systems. I see some people saying this is already in Apple phones. Well, you can stop using Apple phones. You go to Walmart. You know what I do? I put my hand on that camera every time. I don't go to Walmart, but if I go anywhere and there's a camera right there in my face, or let's say at the ATM, I just do that the whole time. Maybe I look weird, but that's just me. And so I can understand and I can empathize why there are people in the UK and maybe even other places burning things down. Before I get into whether or not I think it's a wise strategy, I just shared with you guys basically that I've written about this, right? And it wasn't really an endorsement of the activity other than just to say, hey, consider this if you're really serious about trying to protect your privacy, your family, etc. So now let's move on to the next story here that we have, which is this. Coronavirus closings, protests pop up across the country. Groups are telling demonstrators to stay in their cars. Residents who are taking issue with their state's coronavirus lockdowns are planning protests from Michigan to North Carolina. I got word from somebody today that there's one being planned in Austin, Texas. I know that some friends went to one in Houston. There was only 4 people that showed, but they went to kind of do something. And I think even on Facebook earlier, there was a couple people commenting to me and saying that they're planning on doing some big things in Michigan. We had this one here in North Carolina. Protesters rally for North Carolina to reopen. One woman arrested for violating governor's orders. So these things are starting to pop up. And, I had a friend, we had a conversation earlier, and he was basically saying how excited he is to see this and that he thinks it's really good. And I think obviously, like anytime people are going to stand up and push back, that's definitely a good thing, a good sign, right? Now, is it good strategically? Because today the video, again, is called The Flaming 5G Towers, the Lockdown Protest, and Strategy. And that's what I want to talk about. Let's talk strategy, right? So is it a good strategy? For the moment, I don't think so, because the vast majority of people are watching mainstream media or listening to their flavor of corporate media, Fox, MSN, CNN, whatever, Christian broadcasting news. Everybody's got their own flavor, right? But it's still the same mainstream sources. Even within that, the people who think like on Fox that they're getting the truth, they're still being redirected into the left-right paradigm. My point is the masses are still propagandized, and so when they see something like this, they're like idiots. I mean, just go look anywhere on Facebook and look for your normie friends and ask them. Like I did a little unscientific poll on my Facebook page earlier asking people. And the people who follow my work, they're going to generally support this kind of thing. But there are a lot of people who are outside of our circles who are more normie. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean they're just people who aren't tuned in to this information. They're paying attention to the mainstream. They completely are afraid of the virus. They think what the government's doing is necessary. And, when they see somebody like this, they've been conditioned to think those people are bad. Wow, those people are putting me and my family in danger. How dare they go outside without a mask? How dare they gather in groups of more than 5 people at a time? And so what I told my friend earlier is we are stuck in between a shitty place and an even shittier place. It's not even a rock and a hard place. It's basically, if we stay here and we do nothing, well, then obviously the agenda is going to continue to move forward. The agenda of increasing the technocracy and the health surveillance and all the stuff that we're waiting to hear what Jared Kushner is going to unveil, and the banker bailouts, the corporate bailouts, all these kinds of things, right? So if we do nothing, that's not a good move, I would say. But if we act and we just, let's, like in the beginning, I saw a lot of anarchists sort of just being like, you know what, we need to push back, just go outside because they say so. And that's kind of like almost like your inner child kind of saying, they're telling me I can't do something, I'm going to do it anyways. And I totally get that. I mean, I'm here in Mexico. I walk outside every day, guys. I'm not locked down here. I'm walking around, going to get fresh fruit. I'm going out to the grocery store, going on a walk to see friends. I just went and got some fresh grapefruit juice earlier. So I'm not really stressing about that. But I understand in the places where my friends and family and other people around the world are locked down, like I have got an email recently from someone in France. They've been locked down since March 17th. They have to have notes to go out and travel. I mean, it's crazy. So we have to do something. But I don't know that we're going to be winning people over with, I mean, I'm not saying not to protest. I'm just saying there has to be a careful strategy here, because if we push too fast, well, then we risk, the normies not wanting to be a part of something like this. At the same time, my friend said, hey, you know what? These aren't activists I'm seeing, like typical activists I'm seeing go out there in the streets. These are quote unquote normie type people who are sick of being locked down. This is like a grandmother that got arrested here. We can go back here and see these pictures. Yeah, there's some people wearing Guy Fawkes masks. Maybe they just got them. Maybe they're regular activists. But, there's moms and people of all ages here. And so perhaps people are getting sick of what's going on. Perhaps that is true. And if the masses, if the normie masses are getting sick of being told to stay home and they don't buy the story, then yeah, that could be a pretty good thing. Let me see if I got this other picture. I think I got it right here. Let me pull it. This was just earlier today in Raleigh, North Carolina. North Carolina. Let me see if it'll pop up. Doesn't look like it's popping up. But it's a little image here with a good dozen or so people facing the cops, and they're basically saying, the Raleigh police saying the protesters are in violation of the governor's executive order and have been asked to leave. And the Raleigh police say protesting is not a protocol, and enforcing to say, yeah, those crazy people shouldn't be burning down 5G towers. Now, obviously, I wrote a book where I talked about seeking and destroying. I don't know if we're at that point yet. That's for up to each of you to decide. And if you do something like that, you probably should be pretty else listening. But we have to think strategically and waking people up. I think of how to couch my arguments in the most, strong sound way possible, so that that random person on the street can't just be like, oh, I heard that's a crazy conspiracy theory. And if they do say that, I can say, well, actually, let me hit you up with some facts. Now, some people aren't going to listen. You can't do anything about that, but you can still try to find a way to approach people in a way that's going to get them to listen. And I don't think if you go up to somebody and say, hey, they're trying to kill us with 5G towers, let's go burn them down, that you're going to gain a new supporter. And I also think that, when it comes to these lockdown protests, it might send the wrong message. Am I saying not to do it? No, I'm not saying not to do it. I mean, you guys are free. You do whatever the hell you want. But I'm basically saying that it's a difficult place. The lockdowns are going to continue. It seems like the agenda keeps going forward. In some ways, it seems like the narrative is kind of falling apart, where people are questioning things more and more. I wrote an article yesterday. I did a video today about the U.S. funding some of the Chinese research into the coronavirus. There's all kinds of people waking up that maybe they're not being told the truth, and that's a good thing. But if we really want to build a movement, and at this point, we got to build it fast, guys. We have such a small window that if they don't totally clamp down and build the New World Order, the technocratic state with this, then if they don't do it right now, that gives us a brief window to act and to wake up as many people as possible. And we have to do that, I think, at least the approach I take, in a way that is going to reach your grandmother, your mom, your crazy friends on the internet, etc. We have to reach all kinds of people. And I really do know a lot of different people from this movement. I've met people who, if I'd walk past them in the street, I would never assume that they are, awake, aware, questioning these things. And that teaches you not to judge people, because all types of people have come to these ideas and all types of people have awoken to these messages. So we can reach more people. But all I'm saying is, let's be strategic about the way that we are going about our tactics. So I don't think the answer at the moment, for me at least, is to burn down the 5G towers. I'm putting out my propaganda through my documentary. I'm doing interviews. I'm writing articles. I'm trying to reach the masses. And we're going up against Google and Facebook and the government and the FCC and the telecoms. And it's a hell of a battle. And if we can't stop it, well, then we will come to a point where the only thing will work will be civil disobedience, peaceful resistance, and monkey wrenching to stop these things. And if the lockdowns don't appear to be going away in the U.S., like I said, it's not happening here in Mexico. If they do seem to be more permanent in the US, my friends, you have to push back. You have to push back. And even if that means that the act of protest, the act of resistance is simply walking outside and breathing fresh air and taking in sunlight, well, then damn it, go out there and breathe you some fresh air and breathe you some sunlight and gather with groups of more than 5 people, more than 10 people. Do it safely. I've been washing my hands. Dose up on some high vitamin C. It won't hurt you no matter what. Take some precautions. Just don't be a dumbass. But don't let these people scare you into submission either. I think that's where I'm gonna leave it there for now. I have the comments open for Derrick Broze's Facebook page, the Conscious Resistance Facebook page, and the Conscious Resistance YouTube. I appreciate all the comments and everybody who's been tuned in. Once again, I want to remind you guys, my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, is completely free to download. And we just went over, I think that was this was coming out of chapter 4. Let me just scroll up and show you guys. You can find it at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to. Yes, that's chapter 5, Counter-Economics in the Digital Age, which gets into some of the strategy that I talk about. I also want to remind you guys that I write for the Mind Unleashed website, which is where I published my most recent article yesterday. New reports indicate U.S. and China collaborated on coronavirus research prior to COVID-19 outbreak. And I just took a couple of notes. I have 2 new articles that I'm going to work on tomorrow, and one involving more police surveillance. I'm writing one about all the surveillance pushing that's going on during the COVID-19 panic. And I'm also going to be talking about an update on Jeffrey Epstein. And then the other reminder I want to give you guys is the Freedom Cell Network. If you're looking for solutions, guys, we've been pushing this harder than ever. freedomcells.org. freedomcells.org. Not only have we been pushing it harder than ever, but it's been growing faster than ever. We are now over nearing 2,000 people, and people are creating cells or groups. They're adding themselves to the map, and they're finding each other, and they're building locally. I'm getting lots of emails from people saying, I found people in my community through your website. So that's what this is all about, guys. It's time for us to stop focusing on the problems and start focusing on the solutions. It's been that time for a long time, but unfortunately, some folks didn't want to see it till now. And I'm thankful people are at least now finally starting to talk about solutions. And with that, I guess we'll leave it there, guys. Please do follow all my channels. I posted in the video description below this, wherever you're watching, you can see my Telegram channel. It's just called Derrick Broze's Daily News. I read a lot of articles. I watch a lot of videos, and I don't always make my own videos or write articles about them. So I just dump them in that Telegram chat. You can see them. You can learn more about what I'm reading, where my eyes are at. And thank you guys so much for helping me get past 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you to everybody who's pushing my work on Facebook, and to everybody who follows me on BitChute, DTube, Hive, Library, and everywhere else that we broadcast. I very much appreciate it. And until next time, my friends, thank you. Have a good night. Remember, yes, you are free. I know people ask me that, but are we really free? Or are we free if we have, chains and government trying to, suppress us? Yeah, you're free right here. And that's really the only freedom we have, in our heart and in our minds and our hearts. So we have to take it from those places and manifest it into the physical reality. And the way you do that is by standing up, educating yourself, working on your own trauma, opposing tyranny everywhere that it shows up, and uplifting your brothers and sisters as much as possible so that we can do this together. That's how we're free. And that's how we will maintain our freedom going into the next generation. Because what we do today, it doesn't only matter for us and our children and our children's children. It is about fighting for the 7th generation and beyond. So let's do this together, guys. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free. Peace.